Hello, Polestar. It's been a while. June 2022, as a matter of fact, since we talked about Polestar here on the channel, when Polestar went public, completing that SPAC merger process from Gore Guggenheim to PSNY. And I told y'all back then that I might swing trade that excitement over going public back in 2022, but that I would be waiting to buy Polestar. And here we are in November of 2023. Polestar has dropped in the last 18 months or so from $13 down to $2, and they have announced that they need to raise another $1 billion. So let's go through my current thoughts on Polestar. We'll talk about the green, yellow, red dashboard. Let's get right into it. If you have never looked into Polestar and want to get caught up in this video, we're going to go through quickly their product roadmap and the production in the last couple of years. I'll put a link also right up here to the video I did back in June of 2022. Go watch that one. But the interesting thing that I think is worth talking about on Polestar today is the market cap, $4.28 billion on estimated 70,000 units delivered in 2023. When I compare that to a market cap for something like Rivian, who is going to deliver 20,000 less units, having a market cap of 15 billion, almost 4 times that of Polestar, or a Lucid, who's only going to deliver an estimated 10,000 units, and that is being generous, having a market cap of 9.2 billion. What is out of whack, if anything, here? Or what can we learn by looking at the financials of Polestar compared to something like a Rivian or Lucid to maybe understand why this market cap is so low and make some assessment at $2? Is Polestar a buy right now, or should you wait ahead of the upcoming dilution? Polestar has one vehicle available right now that they are selling, the Polestar 2, a 5-passenger sedan hatchback. That is priced starting at $48,900 US. Next year in 2024, they are dropping the Polestar 3, a 5-passenger SUV, starting at $83,900. And that will quickly be followed by the Polestar 4, which is going to be a less expensive 5-passenger SUV coupe, starting at $60,000. There are the Polestar 5 and Polestar 6 currently scheduled for 2026. The Polestar 2 is manufactured in China right now in a factory that is run by Volvo and Geely, and the Polestar 3 in 2024 is planned to be built in South Carolina. I also see that we have a note here that earnings for Q3 is coming up in just about a week, November 8th for Polestar. I will be providing some follow-up coverage on Polestar once that news drops. This is Polestar's 3rd year of production. They delivered just over 28,000 units in 2021, 51,000 and change in 2022, and they are projecting to deliver between 60 and 70,000 units in 2023. When they went public, they told us that they had a target for 2025 of 290,000 units annually. Now, that's a big gap to get from 70,000 to 290,000. I did not look to see if they have revised that 2025 target down from 290,000 in light of where they're at right now, but we can expect that when they are delivering the Polestar 2 plus 2 additional SUV models, that the production levels should go up from where they're at right now. And if I recall correctly, Polestar said that they plan to be profitable as a company somewhere around 300,000 to 350,000 units. And some analysts are thinking that that might take until 2028. I don't know when Polestar will get to that number. We will have to wait and see. There's a lot going on in the economy right now. Interest rates, EV adoption worldwide. Things are moving. Things are always changing. We will have to keep up with this every quarter and see how they do. Moving on to the dashboard as we get ready for Polestar's earnings next week, let's kind of get a snapshot of where we're at right now. You can see there is a lot of yellow and red in this picture of my risk assessment for Polestar. Let's talk about the items on here, referencing really quick where the red and yellow comes from off of the financial statements, and then maybe we can have some understanding why this one looks so much more yellow and red, and maybe why the market cap is so low for Polestar compared to something like a Lucid and a Rivian. The first red box we have is for profitability. Polestar, as you guys know, is not profitable right now. Earnings per share momentum also got a red because in Q4 and Q1, it was -1 penny a share. In Q2, the most recent one that reported, it increased to the negative from -1 penny to -14 cents. We'll have to see in a week how Q3 ends up. Return on equity is also a red box for Polestar. When we look over on the balance sheet, the company has a negative shareholders equity, which means that they get a red on return on equity. The cash position for Polestar, about 9 months, although that will change as they sell this new $1 billion dilution that the company recently announced. The debt to equity ratio for Polestar, also a red box at a -5.32. That comes off of the balance sheet when we look at the current debt plus the long-term debt divided by the negative shareholders equity. The current ratio for Polestar, also a red box at 0.59. Anything less than 1 is a red box on here. This references the working capital or the ability of the company to pay its bills over the next 12 months. When we go over to the balance sheet, we're going to be looking for working capital at total current assets versus total current liabilities. You always want to see total current assets higher than total current liabilities. In this case, we have the opposite. We have only 2.4 billion on total current assets. We have 4 billion on total current liabilities, indicating some inability potentially to pay their bills over the next 12 months. When you see this on a balance sheet, you can start expecting that a company is going to want to raise cash, hence the prospectus that we saw for Polestar needing to raise up to $1 billion. For revenue growth rate, I gave them a green box. You could look at that on a quarterly basis or an annual basis. When you look at the bar chart showing you the annual growth of their top line revenue, you can see a nice increase annually. When we look quarterly, it's a little bit flatter, but I still think that 2023 will be higher than 2022. For the CEO and management, I gave them a yellow just based on execution. If you twisted my arm, I might have been able to make this one green. Thomas Ingenloth has a long history in the automobile industry. He just needs to work on execution against their plan. They haven't met all of their deliverables or dates exactly, and this could easily get an upgrade to green in 2024. Vortex is being a little wonky, but from what I could tell, short interest is around 20 million shares, yielding an 8% short interest, so that gets a green. Dividends, nobody expects a young company like this to be paying a dividend, just gets a yellow. And insider trades gets a green because I did not find any history of weird insider trading, insider sells going on with Polestar. So just to wrap up the discussion, looking again at the market caps, what is different with Polestar having 70,000 estimated vehicles for 2023 compared to a Rivian with 52,000 and Lucid with 10,000, having much higher market caps? Let's take a comparative look at the dashboards and see what we can point out here. Here is the dashboard for Polestar versus Rivian and Lucid. And you can see that Polestar has a lot more red, and red in areas where Wall Street is going to be more concerned. The second box here, earnings per share momentum. Polestar had a much more significant change in the negative direction on their earnings than did Rivian, which is improving quarter over quarter, and Lucid, which only went down 3 pennies. Polestar on the balance sheet has no shareholder equity, whereas Rivian and Lucid, even though they have a negative return on equity, they do have shareholders equity on their balance sheets. Compared to Rivian and Lucid, the debt to equity ratio for Polestar also weighing down the analysis of the company. Polestar having that -5.32, Rivian and Lucid both in the green on debt to equity. They all have long-term debt, but Polestar has negative shareholders equity on the balance sheet, whereas Rivian and Lucid have positive shareholders equity, leading them to have a positive debt to equity ratio. You don't want to be analyzing a company and finding a negative debt to equity ratio. That's going to penalize the company. The other thing to look at is working capital, that box on the far right. Polestar has an upside down balance sheet with current liabilities exceeding current assets, and that is not a problem at Rivian and Lucid because they have so much cash on their balance sheets. That could potentially be fixed with Polestar, and this upcoming dilution that they're going to do over the next year is going to address some of that balance sheet problem. And the final thing that I want to point out is the revenue growth rate, that green box in the bottom left corner. Now, it's going to be green for Polestar, Rivian, and Lucid. Each one of them got a green box, but let's look at the difference between an 84% revenue growth rate for Polestar versus 480% for Rivian and 2,143% for Lucid. I only point that out because it is something different. I don't know that I would focus on revenue growth rate being the key issue between Polestar, Rivian, and Lucid right now. They're all at different growth cycles, and that number will change for all three of them as we close out the year 2023. I'm more focused on the earnings per share momentum, on the income statement, and the balance sheet issues that Polestar is struggling with right now. For Polestar, we'll have to see how the increase in sales and the dilutive event that is coming up increase and improve the balance sheet as we move into 2024. When it comes to analysts' predictions for Polestar, there are 5 analysts covering Polestar with a range of predictions over the next 12 months for the stock price between $3 and $12. The average analyst forecast is $6.60. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you got some value out of this. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I will be providing some upcoming coverage on Polestar in about a week when they release their earnings. I am Tony Denaro, and I will see ya on the next video.